Yes, it came from outer space to fill the world with terror, to bring you unforgettable suspense. What was it?
Hello and welcome to What's On. I'm Billy Ray.
I'm Ellie.
And I'm Tom.
So once again, this is the podcast where we talk about films and analyse films, and we look at films.
Films!
We like films! Today's main agenda is A Quiet Place.
Oh, yes.
Me and Ellie have just recently seen this. Tom, unfortunately, hasn't seen it yet, but obviously you can still get involved with the discussion. You've seen horror films?
I've seen horror films.
Yeah. This is technically a horror film. So,
Is it a horror film? Because I have seen interviews and I don't remember. It's very unfortunate. I don't remember the guy's name.
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski. He says it's not a horror film.
It's not. It's had to be labelled a horror film, I think, because of the way it is. But I think it's more of a thriller, a dramatic thriller. I quite easily scare, and I was at no point frightened. Like, don't get me wrong, there are parts where obviously their family are in danger. But I felt more, it was concern and like, oh my God, they're going to die. Not fear, like, oh my God, I'm in danger, which is what I feel a lot when I do watch horror films.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a horror. It's only technically a horror.
Yeah, I'd
because
say
it's been labelled that way, but let's not stick to that label.
Yeah, it's a horror in the very loose way, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I really wanted to see it for ages. I remember seeing that. I think I saw the trailer back in like Christmas time, and it just looked really interesting. And I remember watching it and thinking, "What the hell is going on with this family?" Like, I didn't realise that the rest of civilization is pretty much gone. There are a couple of stragglers, and I thought they were being haunted by a ghost initially. When I watched the trailer, I thought they were being haunted by a really nasty poltergeist, but they weren't. It's aliens that are coming after them, and not even to eat them. Oh no, did it eat them?
I have no idea. It just kills them. We didn't see anything else.
There's a scene from the trailer, right, that really intrigued me and confused me. It's a scene of them all walking down a sand path. It looks like a sand path, and they're all in like bare feet, obviously trying to not make any noise, because I assume the noise is the thing that makes the alien come and get you. And one of the children has a toy that he turns on and it makes loads of noise. Now, understanding the premise of the film and having seen that trailer, why the fuck does that kid have that toy?
No, yes, that does happen in the film.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that's the very start of the film.
Yeah, they are in a sort of abandoned pharmacist store, and she is padding around. Emily Blunt, the mother, is padding around and very, very gently handling pill bottles, so they barely, because obviously pill bottles make a lot of noise. It's one of those things where I'm like, wow, she doesn't want to make a sound, and they are signing to each other to communicate. And obviously you have toys and stuff in small pharmaceutical places, so he brings this toy to them. And actually, I'm glad you brought this up, because the father, John Krasinski, he looks at him. You don't initially see what he's got in his hands, but he looks at him like he's holding a bomb. He just, his eyes widen
before it goes off.
No. I mean, as in the child comes to him with the toy in the shop while they're safe, and you haven't, in the shot, you don't see what he's holding. You just see the child's back and the father's face. He looks like he's holding a bomb. That's what you think he's holding, because his eyes widen and everybody freezes, and you just see him holding this little spaceship toy, and the father's like, very, very carefully takes it off him, takes the batteries out and puts it on the side, and kind of comes down to him and signs to him, it's too loud, you cannot have it, they will come. They leave, and their deaf daughter gives him back the toy, not the batteries, the toy, and leaves. And the child reaches up, grabs the batteries, and off they go. And then that scene happens, and this giant, it's difficult to describe. It was limbs like oh goodness, I can't even think.
Is this the alien?
Yeah.
Do you actually see much of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see a bit of some of them. Yeah.
You see them quite up close. Actually,
they're like strange spider legs, but sharp by the look of it. But then later on, they don't look like that.
They kind of
there's variations.
Kind of look like Slender Man on all fours, but with really kind of insect-like, broken up arm.
Okay, like multiple joints and
yeah, and they run really fast. They're like us. They could be bipedal, I think, but they seem to run on all fours. And they pull out their head cracks and moves, and they pull out like their eardrum. It's like just a basic eardrum, and they listen to sound, and that's how they get you. And they will catch you fast. They will hear you, and they will catch you.
They're pretty quick.
They're pretty quick, and that was quite scary. That was but again, it wasn't frightening. It was just tense. Like you could cut the tension with a knife in the cinema. Also, we were lucky enough that we got the last showing because we hadn't seen it, and there was 4 or 5 people, including ourselves, in the screening. I was actually a bit nervous about the guy behind us because I was like, what if he tries to kill us? I'm always nervous of other people in the cinema. Like, why are you here?
Interestingly enough, with their heads, and they kind of come apart, don't they? They kind of remind me of more of an evolution of the zombie things from The Last of Us, because they look like they were formed of fungus and stuff at the start, and then it moves, and it was just... It really interested me.
Yeah, what, it moves like independently of the...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's like parts of their body are living that aren't.
Have you seen Falling Skies? You know,
No.
the main sort of aliens they deal with in that, they call them Skitters.
You made me watch this.
I have made you watch this, where they put this harness on the back of a child and it sort of forms around the child. Is it like a sort of fungus formed around?
No,
No,
being?
it seems like there is. It looks like there's fungus on their heads, but not the rest of it. The rest of it just looks insecty.
Yeah, it's the head bit is almost as if it's sensory, so it cracks open to take in sound and release pressure where it's too much sound, because they're very acute to it. So something very small, which we later find out, really affects their hearing, and they fucking hate it. It causes them great pain, and their head like opens up and cracks to kind of release that pressure, and it's involuntary movement.
So they kill the things that make sound because
they hate the
don't like
sound.
sound.
They want to make
sound.
it completely peaceful.
They actually look a bit like clickers in The Last of Us when they attack.
right.
Like, you make a sound, these things that hear through the clicking that they're making, because there's so much
So,
fungus in front of
yeah.
their eyes that they can't see anymore. They attack you, and it's really weird how fungusy they are. That's just what it reminds me of.
They clicked as well. They made weird clicking noises,
Yeah.
which was
That would be sonar, yeah.
No, I didn't think it was kind of a horror.
Okay, I saw something else that I want to talk about. The childbirth scene.
Oh my
You've seen that?
I saw a snippet from a trailer which shows her in the bath, looking very pregnant and in pain, so I can only assume that she's giving birth.
She is.
And there's like an alien behind her or something. How fucking tense was that?
Oh
That
my,
was the best scene in the film, I think.
by far. I don't know how she did it. She was so good, Tom. She was so good. I've never given birth myself, but she gave a complete. I genuinely thought, even from the way she breathed and kind of, she would go.
She was taking very heavy breaths in and out.
Like-
I was actually doing it with her at one
Yeah,
point.
same.
I just
I
felt
was
I was so
holding my
into the
breath
film
with
at
her.
that point.
She was just absolutely brilliant, and she looked panic stricken as well. I completely believed her fear and her plight. I did get lost in it, and obviously that's when the fireworks went off, and she let out this. They do this. They communicate with each other. So when she does give birth, the boy and the father have left to explore, and he's going to teach him how to live in the world without him. And the mother goes into labour at night time, and she turns the red lights on to indicate to the father that something's wrong when you come home. He sends the boy off to set off fireworks because they've planned for this. My God, the whole pregnancy. Oh my days. He sets off the fireworks, and the monster leaves, obviously distracted by the fireworks, and she just lets out this almighty scream, and you're left. And it goes back to the father running towards the house, and you're left thinking, did the monster get her, or did the monster leave for the fireworks? You just don't know, because the monster literally just turned round, and she could not hold it anymore.
It was a powerful scream because it was a long time coming. She hadn't made much noise at all up to that point. She's holding back her screams.
She was being stalked. She wasn't being. It thought she was there. It didn't know she was there, and she was so good. And the father comes bursting around the corner of the bathroom, and she's not in the bath, and it's just covered in blood. And for a good 30 seconds, I was like, oh my God, she's dead. Like it got a snack and a ready meal. Like it's.
You actually said that in the cinema.
I did.
Everyone probably heard you.
Oh god. And he played really well as well. He started to cry, but he was like biting his hand because he knew. So he didn't make any noise. And then she just does this. This was an unnecessary amount of noise. She just whacks her hand on the shower, which she's hidden herself in the baby, and there's blood on her hand, and it's like a weird reverse Titanic. Which actually there were a couple of Titanic kind of nods.
It was really strange. It was like the one jump scary moment in the whole film. It was so pointless.
Well, no, it wasn't because it made us jump. But it was loud, and you're just like, what? This whole time you've been told, shh.
Why would you do that? Surely it would have made more sense just to be like, John,
yeah,
you there?
So, how silent is the film?
It's very silent. It's very quiet.
Very quiet.
Is it basically like, is there like a soundtrack? Is it all ambient noises or?
It's mainly ambient noises, unless there's a lot of them gathering around, and then it's a bit like tense music.
And actually, there are points where you perceive the film through the hearing of the deaf child that
so
they have.
Just no sound at all.
It's not no sound. It's just this incessant thrumming, which would be her heartbeat.
Oh right, yeah, of course, because she would still feel the vibrations. Right?
Yeah, because actually, it's not. A lot of hearing issues are not because you've got something wrong with your ears. It's because of the connections with your brain.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she has this. I think it's called a Coachella implant, or if that's the festival. I don't know. I'm a bit stupid.
Coachella is a festival.
Coachella is a festival, but I think it is called a Coachella implant. I'm not. I could be being. I'm so sorry if anybody here is listening who has a Coachella implant, and I'm telling you all wrong. I'm so sorry.
Coachella, is that just like a hook shot of MDMA?
No, I don't know me. But and he's making these things for her in the basement, and she doesn't know. But she's they're trying to make it work, and she can't hear, and all you can hear is this thrumming, and it's interesting to see it from her perspective.
So it did work at some point.
No, it doesn't work so she can hear. It works where it lets off this horrible sound where it hurts her as well, and the monsters don't like it, and it exposes a weak spot, and it's just fantastic. It's just Emily Blunt, shotgun, bang. Like, she's just lost quite a lot. She's fucking pissed off.
But yeah, talking about the quietness of the film, that is a really intriguing part of the film, because most films, like this film, is really engaging, and you do feel like you're in the film at a lot of times. But there are, especially at the beginning, when you're first watching it, and it's so quiet, and you're so aware of all the noises you're making, and you're having to be very quiet, and you're aware of what everyone else is doing as well. It's also kind of alienating, kind of like, sort of like you're not in the film because you're aware of yourself and that you're watching a film, which is quite a brave thing to do these days.
So like, I can't imagine having watched this film with the audience we had in the Infinity War showing we went and saw.
Oh god.
Because there were a lot of people I could hear people chewing down on their popcorn and stuff when we were in Infinity Wars.
There was no snacks.
Yeah, that's a loud film.
We didn't bring anything in. We did. We had a lemonade, which we didn't even have straws. We sipped at it quietly in like
you had to be so quiet.
Yeah.
Every time you moved, it felt like it was heard throughout the whole audience.
Everything you did, everybody else heard. I could hear people moving in front of us.
It's very intriguing because it's almost like they give you the same feeling watching it in the cinema. It gives you the same feeling, not necessarily with as much panic, but the same feeling that the characters are feeling. A need to not make sound. It's very interesting.
It's a really cool thing to do. It's very brave. Films don't really do that these days. It's obviously a very niche film. I don't think a lot of like the mainstream audience are gonna enjoy it in that way because of that. I don't think this is a film for everyone to see in the cinema.
I'm glad you liked it though, because I'd never suggested a film to you before that we then went and saw, and this was the first one, and you hadn't seen any of the trailers. You had no idea what you were walking into, and I was just walking up to the cinema like, great, okay then.
Yeah, I've decided not to watch trailers for films now.
It's a good idea.
If I can avoid it.
Watch trailers. If I can avoid it, I don't watch trailers.
I love watching trailers.
I do as well in the cinema.
I like watching trailers. The problem we have now is that apart from like Deadpool, film trailers show too much of the film.
They're too long. They show all the best bits.
And you go to the cinema and you're like, even if in Infinity War, they've released like an entire scene between Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Bruce Banner. It's about 5 minutes of the film they just released for people to watch before the film comes out. It's pointless.
That's really strange.
Yeah.
So when you've watched the trailer for Civil War, you can just be like, great, can't wait for another year for the trailer for the next one to come out, and just watch all the trailers.
Just watch the trailers and you're
Like, there
done.
you
You know
go.
what happens.
I know mostly what's happening, so that's good enough for me. I can get involved in the conversation.
I didn't get this with Quiet Place at all. I had no idea what was really going to happen. If it was ghosts,
No, I mean,
aliens, what was
all
gonna
I've
happen.
all I had heard about this film was from you two. So when I went in there, I was like, I've heard it's a very quiet film, but I don't know what to expect.
Speaking of just what we were talking about earlier with Emily Blunt and The Birth, there is something I do want to talk about. I actually love this film, so I feel bad if it feels like I'm picking it apart a bit and being a bit miserable.
That's right. That's what we do.
She has the baby, and they have prepared for it. They've built a soundproof basement and they've built a box with a hole in it where they've put a gas mask on the baby and it will have oxygen. But what is their plan? How do you now socialise this child who's now going to be locked in a box 90% of the time? And then they have the flood and she just abandons the box and is like, fuck it, I'm just going to hold my baby to me.
Oh God, you scared me for a second there. I thought you meant they left the baby in the box during the flood and just the baby dies off in the film in a box.
No.
I was like, Jesus Christ, how can you say this was a nice film to watch?
No, it's actually worse. He saves her from the bathroom, takes her downstairs into this soundproofed place. They have a discussion of they must protect the children because two of their children are still outside in their farm with other aliens running around. He leaves and doesn't realise that, and one of the aliens that has been basically just tearing their house apart has torn their kitchen asunder, and there is just water pouring out of their tap, and it's just making so much noise. And I remember him getting out of the basement and I'm thinking, what is making that noise? What is making that water noise? And he just walks down the hallway towards the door where he is outside to his children, and you see it pans to the kitchen and the water is flowing down. You're like, well, that's gonna fucking flood the basement, isn't it? And you're thinking, how can he not hear this in all this silence?
How did no one notice this?
How did he? And she's asleep. She doesn't wake up until it kind of becomes quite a crashing noise, and she kind of senses that there's water, and she looks, and then one of the animals is in there with her, and the box is just floating on top of the water. And the creepiest thing of all, because it's like walking around on its hands and stuff, and you're like, right, okay, so it's quite tall, it's difficult for it to get around, maybe she can, move. She gets up into the water, obviously it's making sound, but she's, there's louder noises, so she's covered. She goes to reach for grab the box, and it goes down under the water, but without it just goes down in the water, and it's it's in the room, but you don't know where. And as she goes to take the baby out of the crib, its head pops up, up at the top of this box, and she, without even hesitation, she just quickly takes it out, doesn't make any sound, and slowly backs away. And this whole time I'm grabbing the edge of the seat, like, oh my God, like I would be terrible because I would jump. Her character didn't jump. She's just so hyper aware at this point of making no sound and making no mistakes.
I'd imagine people like you would die very quickly if those aliens attacked.
I'm so noisy. Coming back from this film, I realised how much fucking noise I just actually make, just in my general day-to-day life, and I really don't mean to. I would die.
I had a problem with that bloody cellar, by the way, because they had made that cellar soundproof, and we are aware of this now. So why have they spent all of the rest of the time in the house in any other area? Like, there's one scene where they're playing a board game and someone knocks a lamp over and then monsters come. And it's like, you could have avoided this if you were in your soundproof cellar.
I think it's a case of supply and demand a little bit. So they didn't think to soundproof the house immediately because you've got to feed yourself. They've covered all other amenities, and it wasn't until obviously he knocked her up, which I'm not being funny. Why?
Yeah, like To be fair,
Maybe everyone else looted all the contraception.
I was going to say maybe
No,
they,
but there's
if they ran out of condoms, you can't really rely on the Puerto Rican pullout. Like,
no, but there's always the back door, isn't there? Like, you know.
maybe she doesn't like anal.
Well, then don't have sex because you're going to have a child. To quote the gym teacher from Mean Girls, don't have sex because you will get pregnant and die. Like,
Evidently, yeah.
Where was you leading with the soundproof cellar of this, though? Like, where was this going?
because she became pregnant, they realised obviously there are complications to having a baby and have, you know, the noises that they make. So suddenly the demand to actually soundproof when they'd been getting along this far with how they hadn't actually yet had time, because you saw how heavily pregnant she was and they were helping her plaster paper onto the wall. So clearly this was a brand new endeavour. But that being said, when it comes in, it's day 89, isn't it? And they've already got sand tracks all the way from their house to the town, which is a good, like, it looks miles.
It's a long way. There's a forest and a bridge.
So it's
farm.
Let's say it's at
It's the
least
sound, so they could walk on the sound, make less noise.
yeah,
obviously.
and it's really quite piled up. This isn't just like one layer of sand. This is clearly meticulously
It's
done.
a couple hundred bags of sand.
It's got to be at
It's
least.
got to
And
be. There's so much
it's
sand.
day 89, and you're like, how have you done this?
Where did you get all the sand
Where did
from?
he get the sand from?
He
Like-
could have. It's a farm, right?
Yeah.
He could have sand because he's about to start building stuff. Because you use sand in cement and concrete. So
Maybe he was, and it was good timing, but he's
Yeah.
going to run out of sand soon. He even had a proper sack to like dump the sand properly.
Yeah, he did.
Like, it opened up at the bottom as if it was. This is literally a bag for dumping sand.
He wouldn't have been very good if he needed that sand for building, because there's one bit in the film where Emily Blunt's laundry bag gets stuck on a nail when she's walking up the stairs, which she manages to get free without realising that she's pulled a nail up, so that a nail is pointing up through the stairs.
how the fuck does that happen?
That's the
That's
thing.
what I was thinking. Who the hell built this house and put the nails upwards
wrong way
in
round.
the stairs? How did this happen?
Which, of course, when she goes into
She steps.
labour, she steps on and brings noise to her.
And holds back the loudest scream that you could see, but you couldn't hear because she didn't
And she
sing.
had to then pull her foot off the nail. And all you see, it was so sad as well, you just see this woman sitting on the steps holding her stomach and silently crying.
Yeah.
And you just want to hold her, and you just want her husband to show up and pick her up and be like, I've got this.
She was great. Emily Blunt
She was
was brilliant.
so good. She was so good. She really was she was the one keeping everybody together. Father was protecting everybody, and she was keeping everybody together. So when he was down in his cellar racking his brain like, how do we stop this? What do I do? She comes over and she's got her iPod in. She gives him a little headphone and they start dancing. And it's as simple as that. She's just kind of putting a little bit of normalcy into it.
That was a beautiful moment. I think the nice family moments make the film special. And
Yeah.
more unique.
Because the father and daughter's relationship was really fractured, because the daughter blames herself for the younger son's death because she gave him the toy.
She gave him the toy.
But she didn't give him the batteries, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. She did the right thing. But she also couldn't hear what was happening as well, so it was very interesting that obviously he turned the toy on and everybody else immediately turns, and she's actually the closest to him, so if she could have heard, could have easily turned around, grabbed it, turned it off, or thrown it with making the sound. She can't even hear it. She is so off in her
she's-
own world, and she's just walking away, and they are turned
they
in
all
horror.
hear it
Just-
and turn around.
Yeah, she just sees her parents
And she
In
just,
horror.
staring in
and she
her
just
direction.
keeps walking forward.
Yeah, all she sees is her parents staring at her in horror. Until her dad puts their son down, who is ill, and that's why they went into town, and starts booking it towards his son. But she has no idea what's going on until the very last moment.
Yeah, so she has a lot of built-up guilt in this film.
So she claims that she speaks to her brother, and she says, oh, Dad doesn't love me. Because there's a point where they're stuck on top of the silo, and she's like, well, he'll come for you, he won't come for me, he doesn't love me. And at no point did I not think that this dad I blamed her or did not love her. Because there's at one point where he comes out with this implant, and he's saying it will work, and she bats it away from him and going, stop, just stop, it's not going to work, stop it. And he's literally on his knees presenting it to her, and then just puts it in her hand and folds his hand on top of it. And it's just like, how could you not think he loves you? If he didn't love you, he would just leave you.
Let you die.
He would just let you die, and she
Yeah.
gets angry because she's like, "Why don't you take me out into the wild and show me these things?" And it's like, because you can't hear how much noise you're making. You are dangerous, unfortunately, in this situation. Now, thankfully, she comes to save the day because she figures it out what's going on. Unfortunately, far too late for John Krasinski, and she puts her hearing device up against a microphone, and it just blasts it, and this thing is just out. But like, their relationship was so fractured, and I just at no point thought this father does not love his daughter at all.
That was the main driving force of the film, though, their relationship, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. It just it was his love for his children, what he would do to protect his children, and at the end as well, when he signs "I love you, I have always loved you," and she starts become welling up, and he screams because at this moment the two children are trapped in a car, and the monster is trying to get at them, and he just lets out this scream, which Billy is really unimpressed with, and I am like, wow. You first.
Well, it was very well acted because obviously at this point his stomach has been ripped open, so he's in horrible pain probably, most likely. So obviously if you're going to make a loud scream, it's going to sound a bit like and it's going to like your voice is going to break. But it was so pathetic because his voice broke that I just thought that was your moment to have some really cool last words. It might have been corny, but whatever happened to get away from her, you bitch. And
pathetic
stuff.
scream. Pathetic scream makes sense. That makes sense. He's in pain. He's sad. He knows he's sacrificing himself to save his children.
Literally what I was about to say. That for me was a scream of somebody who's actually trying to, because he's trying to override his survival instinct that he has now been training into himself. At this point was like 486 days of don't make any sound, and he knew he was going to die.
Wait, so the little boy dies at the start.
At day 89.
And that's day 89.
Yeah.
And the film it goes on to like day 400.
It jumps.
Yeah, obviously it jumps.
Yeah,
but it goes on to like day 400.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like over a year.
Yeah.
Or like a year since the little boy died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked his scream. I thought it was clever. I thought it was good, but you weren't impressed.
Yeah, it could have been better.
Can I just say what I wasn't impressed with either, and I'm very confused with? The fucking newspapers.
Newspapers, big deal for me, seeing that film. It starts with all these newspapers around that are talking about how it's sound. Sound is the thing that hurts them. Like, it says it's sound in really big letters on one of these newspapers.
In like a 1950s kind of thing, if you can imagine.
Like alien sightings, 90s, 50s newspapers. Yeah. But, so they figured out that sound is what draws these aliens. Sound is what's going to get you killed. Then how did you fucking produce a newspaper?
Yeah.
Like, you made a newspaper, got it printed, got it distributed.
Yeah,
how did that happen before you were killed off? And also, if you knew this was...
Why didn't you just radio it out or send it out in a television with a picture saying, don't make sound, we know what it is? There's so many, like, what... How did they that had me stumped. I was just like, how did you distribute this without... Well, they're dead.
And then they distributed it. Like, so you didn't die from making the newspapers, which is pretty noisy.
He loaded them into vans and then drove the vans.
I know. So everyone was just getting on with their regular daily routine.
While aliens were invading and killing people. They were still making newspapers.
Delivering
just
newspapers.
chugging away.
Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it was good though.
But also, if sound is what gets you killed, what happens with just basic bodily functions? What happens if you need to cough?
What I would say, what if you're a snorer?
What if you sneeze?
You can sneeze silently. I can sneeze silently.
I would
it hurts.
Dead.
What if you fart? You're gonna have to do it in a pillow.
Because of snoring, you would be dead.
Yeah. I see. This is what I was thinking. If you had diarrhea, you have to like dig a hole so you don't. So there's no like shit on water impact noise.
You'd have to go to the river.
They cannot see you in any way, shape, or form because there was a bit where the kids fall down the silo, and they're making loads of noise, and the father is running through the cornfield because at this point he's like, I can't. There's nothing else I can do, and he stops and turns his light, and there's a monster running. Like, you can't actually really see the monster properly, but you can see the corn moving, and he freezes, and it literally runs right past him and up to the silo, and that's when he's like, that's where they are, and then he just follows that.
The silo was quite funny actually because they fall through the silo because part of it's loose, and they fall into this like grain pit, like this giant thing full of grain. I don't know how to describe it. It's a massive container that farmers use or something.
It's a
Grain
silo.
storage. It's a silo.
Sorry, yeah. You just said that, yeah. So they fall into this silo full of grain, and there's a door, right? The door is on top of the grain, and one of them is sinking into the grain. Was it the boy or the girl?
Yeah, it was the boy first.
And so the girl is pushing the door towards him so that he can climb onto the door. And they both get onto the door, which disproves there isn't room for two people on a door from Titanic.
Again,
Just saying.
Titanic reference.
There was room for one more person. It happened in A Quiet Place.
Yep.
I was-
Disproved.
Yeah. She is a selfish bitch. But yeah, they just kind of... I didn't really get how the grain worked, because then after that, they used the grain as a sort of shield on top of them, so they're completely underneath the door, because a monster comes in, but they don't sink into it. So 1 minute it's grain, 1 minute it's quicksand, but it's never... It's really strange. It's
The
like the
constitution,
physics are not... the continuity is bad.
No, the physics was actually correct. I think.
In which way?
It could
When
be,
it's because they. Do you remember when he was trying to break free like that, and she was signing, "Don't move, stop moving," and then she literally. It was actually quite funny. She rolled her eyes and then jumped in.
I just don't get
maybe
why...
the monsters don't weigh that much.
Maybe. They do move pretty fucking quick.
The physics was just very confusing, because 1 minute it was grain, and 1 minute someone is sinking into it as if it's quicksand at a very unusual rate.
You would with grain.
was
But
strange.
your perception of quicksand is also warped by movies as well, because it does not work the way it works in movies.
Oh, really?
If this room is full of popcorn kernels, you would drown in it.
You would.
I'd eat it, but yeah.
No, you wouldn't,
I'm
because it's
joking,
popcorn. It's popcorn kernels.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I get you now, I was just being pedantic.
No, I really like the film. I really like John Krasinski. I thought he was very, very good in it. I think he's a very clever man. I love the fact that he's married to Emily Blunt, and she is just as fantastic. And that is like
Jealous.
He's clearly multi-talented
I'm
as well.
jealous.
of them both. Yes, they're a very attractive couple.
Clearly he's good on and off camera,
Yeah,
which is really nice.
yeah, he's good. They interview well as well.
Yeah,
Which is
so
nice.
Although we've pointed out a few issues we had, we still enjoyed it a lot.
I absolutely loved it, and if you have an opportunity to see it or buy it or whatever. But it was good. I really liked it. I would like to see it again. I would like you to see it in the cinema as well.
Yeah,
because
I definitely want to go.
Although it wasn't a horror, there was a lot of moments where we were just kind of clenching our seats, or me and Eddie were both sitting next to each other like,
yeah, you
it's
hold
very intense.
you hold your breath along with the characters.
It's a shame that they had to label it as a horror though, because I guess in some ways it is, but it just doesn't have that effect.
Well, the horror comes in. Horror comes in a lot of genres anyway, because you have like jump scare, you have thriller, you have tension. There's a lot of different types of horror, so I would imagine it's more on the tension scale of horror.
Tension,
Yeah, this was
thriller.
very much like Alien.
Yeah.
In terms of horror, as opposed to
Yeah,
scary horror.
I mean, Alien doesn't have a lot of jump scares really. So recommended film, Quiet Place.
Absolutely.
Enjoy The Quiet Place. Anyway, yeah, that was our episode on A Quiet Place. Thank you very much for watching. If you have questions, comments, opinions, you can email us at whatsonpodcast@outlook.com. Please send us messages. So we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.